Hello class. In this video, I will give you an introduction to game design and I'll show you what you need to prepare before you go into create your game. First, let's take a look at the models you will need for your game. So this is the prompts, and from the edge you can tell it's not high polygon model. Okay, and this is a real wireframe of it. So for this detailed model, you can see the polygon is 3000 vertices. And this is a texture map. So this is the color map, diffuse map, which give the model the basic color, the basic texture. And the second map, which is the specularity map. Okay, so the color that marked in white, this area will reflect 100% of the lights, and the dark area will not reflect any of the lights. So you can see that it has these scratches. So that will make the model reflect lights through these scratches and make it look really kind of polished. And this is a normal map, which is going to create the bumps on the surface. Okay. And the artist used Photoshop and Crease Bump to make the texture. And the Crease Bump is the software that we have used in last semester in the 301 class. Okay. And this is a X, and you can see the wireframes here. So all faces are quartz instead of triangle. As I said, the quartz is get more and more popular in the game industry instead of triangulate. And this is the final render of the model. You can see the texture looks really good. It's detailed. This is a boxing gloves. With this detail, it only has 250 vertices. Okay, and here's the workflow. So it's modeled in Maya, and the high polygon is a sculpt in ZBrush, and we can use the Modbox to sculpt it as well, and use Modbox to paint the texture as well. And then you generate the normal map, ambient occlusion map, out from Modbox. Or if you want to use ZBrush, you can do that as well, right? And then you use Photoshop to ramp up everything together. And this is a no polygon model. And this is the high polygon model is after sculpted. Okay, this one. And then you bake the normal map. So the reason I suggest everyone to use Modbox is because so the sculpting part, is the same in both two programs, the ZBrush and Modbox. But in Modbox, the texturing part will be much easier. In ZBrush, when you want to bake your texture map, the normal map, and export it out, it's a little bit too complex, especially for a beginner. So Modbox would be the ideal program that you can use to just sculpt the model and make the texture. And this is a gun model. And you can see here's the wireframe and here's the highly detailed texture, right? The lights reflect through all these scratches. That's all because of the specular map. Okay, and it's rendered in KeyShot, but since we're going to use it for game, you don't have to worry about that. And the scissor, the axe, the knife, and it's really no polygon, but the final result looks good. So the model has 600 vertices. Okay. And this is a vehicle because the vehicle has more details and more parts on it, so it has more vertices. So for this model, we have 8,000 vertices, and you can make multiple versions of texture for it. As you can see, for this one, the artist created two textures with different colors. Okay, so this is another render image of the model, just the model. And this is the texture, the diffuse map, which is color map, the specular map, which being used to reflect lights, and this is a normal map. And you can see you get a lot of details on it, the bumps. Okay, also the artist used Photoshop and Crazy Bump to make the textures. And the weapon model, and this is the wireframe of it, and this is the final result. And this is a set design. In Unity, it provides you the templates, the trees, the grass, and the landscape. It has a terrain tool, which is great, and you can create a terrain very effectively. So if you just want to use the default Unity terrain, you don't have to worry about this. But a lot of artists, they want to create a customized environment. For example, the game that are provided in class that you have played, the artist draw the tree and make the 2D art style. So in that scenario, you would create a model and make the texture for the tree, the grass, and the landscape. So in that case, you would manually create it. Okay, for this detail, the model only has 890 vertices, and he used the method I mentioned in class in last semester, that you can use a plan and unfold the texture and make the leaf or grass texture for it, and then you bend that plan, right? So you can use the same technique to create the hair for your character. If you don't want to model each individual leaves, that would be a lot of vertices, right? So this whole scene only has 890 vertices. There's no polygon. Okay, and this is another example of just use normal map, specularity map to generate the detail. So the wall looks really detailed. And this is the high polygon model that the artist sculpted from the no polygon model that created in Maya, right? And then he made the normal map, the texture map, specularity map, and apply it back to the no polygon model. And in this scenario, the artist used 4 maps. Okay, this is the color map, which is a diffuse map, right? And this is specular map, which reflect the lights. So this one is more kind of high contrast because it's supposed to have water spilled on the wall. And this one is the ambient occlusion map. Ambient occlusion map used to enhance the contrast of your model, as I mentioned in class. And this is a normal map. Okay, and let's take a look of the setting. Okay, so this is the set model. It's the same as the pump model. As you can see, each vertex has its function. That's a very good example of game prompts. So when you create a model, you want to make it no polygon, and you want to use all vertex to shape your object, right? So every vertex needs to have its function to stay in the scene. You don't want to waste any vertex. Okay, and this is another example, right? Texture looks really good. The model is no polygon, okay, but because of the texture, different type of texture, the model looks really polished. Okay, and the previous one is a realistic styled setting, so this one is more kind of cartoonish style, but the texture is still stylized. It just has more saturated color texture. And here's the wireframe of the model. Okay, and here's after the texture. As you can see, the model is very no polygon. And this is a realistic styled model. Another example. Okay, this one looks, the texture looks really good. very detailed. But from the edge of the model, you can still tell it's no polygon model. Okay, so for a scene that with this scale, 300 million vertices is still considered a no polygon model. Okay, because this is the whole scene. And here are some examples of the maps the artist used. And this Bertino model, the whole scene only has 700 vertices. Okay, and the artist made a different texture for it. And this is Warframe. And you can see every vertex has its function, right? It being used to shape the shape. Okay, so now let's talk about a key step for you to design your game. So first, you want to create something like this, right? It mark down the narratives of your game. So when you create a film, you will write down all the scenes, the shots, right? So you would make a shot list. So here we would make something that's similar. You mark down all the key plots in your game. For example, here you escape the garage, and then navigate to the bridge, and then draw bridge to cross, right? Something like that. And you have a storyline, and then you will create a floor plan or kind of simple walkthrough, right? So you will draw a layout of the scene and how the character going to navigate through the scene, and at each spot what the character would encounter, right? And then you would make a prompt list, for example, in this scene, we would have street lights, we would have barrel, we would have a trash can. You know how many trash can you would have in this whole scene, and you may also have task lights. You may have a bridge or refrigerator somewhere. So those are the prompts you would create for your scene. So you would write those down and make a prompt list and create each individual model for them. Okay, and before you get started, you can just draw sketches of your prompts, right? Reference to your prompt list, you would draw the outline or silhouette of your prompts, and you can color it and draw more details on your sketch. You know, the model has some special functions. Before you forget, you can write down beside of your model as the notes. And same thing for the characters. So it depends on how many characters you would have in your scene. You would write them down, the name, the personality, and what would they do in the scene, and how the character been dressed. So to design the characters prompts, a tips is you would start with the silhouette instead of go draw the details of the character. From there, you add the details on your character. Okay, same thing for the buildings. It will be the best that you start with the silhouette. If your audience can identify each building through the silhouette, that means it's a successful design. Okay, you don't want your building to be too common or too similar. Another example. So when you draw the silhouette of your environment, just to focus on the shapes and make sure your silhouette has large shape, medium, and small detailed shapes. And it doesn't matter what style your environment is, so the same principle would apply. So you just focus on the shape. For stylistic environments, you can just push the design and play with proportions, exaggeration, and shape variations. For example, the top image is a realistic scene, as you can see. It's very common, right? It's very kind of similar to what we see in the real life, how the building looks. But in more kind of stylistic environment, the cartoonish environment, you kind of exaggerate the shape and play with the proportion, right? Okay, so at this step, you just pay attention to the shapes, the visual appeal, so you don't have to worry about the details. So after you create a different version of the CineOS and you choose those versions that you like the best, and then you can continue from here and add more details in the CineOS, and you can paint with the different colors. Here's another tips I want to show you. So a lot of time when you design the environment, it's a bit hard, right? Because not everyone is very good on makeup things. So what you can do before you design the building, design the environment, you can go to Google Map, right? So here, for example, if I want to create a city model, I just search the Times Square, okay, on Google Map, and I go to satellite. And this gives you a reference about a floor plan of the city. And then you can go to the 3D view. So after you turn the 3D view, and you can check each building in 360-degree view, right? And you can even make a screenshot of the texture and use it for your model. Right? It's a very useful tool. And you can reference the real building for modeling. And then you would start with a map of your scene, right? So we draw the layout at first, and then you will start with the map where each building is located and what is the style of that building and what is the function of the building. So you will start with the scratches and just write the name or very simple words about the function of the building. And from there, now you can continue to add more details to it. And if you have a lot of detail on the building that you want to mark it down for modeling, and you can write notes on it, and you can even draw the specific detail of that part and use it as a reference for modeling. Okay, and after that, you would like to draw a concept art to show the mood, the environment. Another example of the environment art. So environment art would indicate the mood, the atmosphere of that particular scene. And the modeler, the game designer would use it to further develop the model and to develop the atmosphere in Unity 3D, to make it more artistic, more stylized.